sweats, nausea, or lightheadedness, or stroke symptoms, such as balance issues, vision problems, face drooping, arm or leg weakness, or speech difficulty, please call 911 immediately. Our emergency department team is taking special precautions with all patients and created designated areas for the treatment of COVID-19 patients. To learn more about how Hackensack Meridian Health is providing you the best healthcare during this pandemic, visit hackensackmeridianhealth.org/getcarenow. Sponsored by Hackensack University Medical Center Foundation and aired by the New Jersey Broadcasters Association and this station.
Morris County needs our Spanish-speaking community to fill out the 2020 census. It's safe, it's easy, and it's really important. If we are not fully counted, communities in Morris County from all nationalities, races, and ethnic groups will lose federal aid. Less money for housing and childcare programs, less for schools and student lunches, less for senior citizens, less for community health care. Competition for federal dollars is fierce. So if you live in Morris County, please fill out your census online or on paper. No one will ask about citizenship, Social Security, bank accounts, or personal info. Help Morris County count in 2020. Do it now. Visit NJ Census 2020. This message sponsored by the County of Morris, the New Jersey Department of State Complete Count Commission, and aired in cooperation with the New Jersey Broadcasters Association and this station.
You're listening to WBWD 540 AM, Islip, New York, a part of Universal Stations, LLC.
The views, opinions, and statements expressed in the following program reflect the views of program contributors and do not necessarily reflect the views of WBWD Radio, its management, or its sponsors. For questions and comments, please send us an email at contact@bali540am.com or visit us at bali540am.com.
Hi, this is Jakes McDonald.
Sports Talk New York with your hosts, Mark Rosenman and AJ Carter. Sports Talk New York is sponsored in part by Prince Associates for all your insurance needs, the Phoenix Tube Company, the law firm of Declator Cohen and DePrisco, Solomon Jewelers, and General Needs Charity, serving our homeless veterans with dignity. And now, here are your hosts, Mark and AJ.
And good Sunday evening to you. No, not Mark and AJ. It's Mark, AJ sitting in his bunker at home. We have Micah Peace and Ryan Sherman on the other side, training with Rick. This is Rick's last day as outboard op. He's been here for many years, and just want to thank him right off the bat for his tremendous work. And he's now showing Mike and Ryan the ropes. So hopefully everything will go smoothly. We're sure it will. It's time now for the Capcom Major League Baseball report. And with baseball underway, it means that the warm weather is here. And it's a great time to keep those windows and doors open. Let that fresh air in. Keep the bugs out with a Clearview retractable screen. The Clearview retractable screen system comes with the standard with a lifetime warranty and the patented speed reducer so it will not snap back. You get the luxury of a screen door and a sleek, low-profile design without the hassle of a bulky storm door or sliding screen door. Call 631-440-1100 for free estimates and purchase a unit and mention Sports Talk New York and get it with free installation. That's 631-440-1100 or visit clearviewlongisland.com. Something that does snap back is your memory to last year anytime Edwin Diaz is on the mound. He looked good. It's Groundhog's Day. And it's interesting. With a 60-game season, how many times do you allow this to happen? 4 or 5 hours before the season started, maybe the urgency would be even greater. But then all of a sudden, 4 or 5 hours before the season started, a whole bunch of teams got added to the playoffs. So is the urgency still there? How much rope does he have? And the rope got a little longer given the fact that there are a few more teams now making the playoffs?
I think it's a little longer with the extra teams, but honestly, I think it's a little longer because Edwin Diaz did not look bad yesterday. He threw, the last year we talked about, he's completely lost his slider. He's got to rely on the fastball, which no pitcher can do. The last 2 days, Edwin Diaz's slider has been reminiscent of 2018 and not 2019. The slider he struck at Ozzie Albies on was incredible. The 3-1 slider to Ozuna was electric. There was no way he was hitting it. I think if you want to blame anything or anybody, blame whoever called a 3-2 fastball. Because with Ozuna's long swing, he wasn't touching the slider, and the worst that would have happened is you walked him. Instead, he throws him a fastball and it's belt high on the outside corner. And yeah, Ozuna put a good poke on it, and he deserves all the credit in the world. But Diaz's slider is back, and it's got to be used more, and it's got to be used on big pitches. So I'm not panicking over Diaz quite yet. But yeah, and I think the leash is longer more for that than for the extra playoff teams.
I also agree that the leash is longer because the fact that there's no fans. So, he kind of shook that off. He smiled a lot like he did last year. However, if that's, a day 2 crowd, pretty decent sized crowd, and the people start booing him, I think that starts getting in his head. I think now without the fans, I think that's a plus for him for sure. Something we talked about last week was with the Houston Astros when we did our predictions, and I kind of alluded to the fact that, I just don't know how, Justin Verlander at his advanced age is going to make it through a season. And we just got news that Justin Verlander is out for the year. How big of a crimp is that in the Astros' chances to go back to the World Series?
It's absolutely huge. They were in bad enough straits losing Garrett Cole. But as long as they had Verlander and Greinke and that hitting, I thought they would be all right this year. And especially with the no fans. You said Edwin Diaz benefits from having no fans. I think the Astros benefit by having no visiting fans.
Exactly.
But losing Verlander is huge. And now I think the AL West is wide open with the Angels, although now you got to worry about the Angels. Shohei Ohtani couldn't get an out today against Oakland. So it's going to be a wild American League West. I think the Astros could still win it, if only because there's not really a team that's a clear favorite to ascend. I know a lot of people like Oakland. I'm a little lukewarm on Oakland, but they could certainly do it. I think, with the possible exception of Seattle, I think it's anybody's division at this point.
Totally agree. On the injury front as well, Big Maple. We talked about it. Back injuries for pitchers are very difficult to overcome. Velocity down. Again, how much rope do you give him? How many starts does he get to strengthen, the back and maybe get that velocity up a little bit? But if he's only touching 92, that's batting practice.
Yeah, that's tough. And the problem for the Yankees is they don't really have a lot of depth in the starting pitching, so that there's not, like the Dodgers have a Dustin May that they could throw at you when Clayton Kershaw got hurt. The Yankees really don't have anybody like that, although Michael King has looked pretty good. We'll see when Luis Sessa comes back, but that's a big blow because you don't know what you're going to get from Tanaka this season after the injury. So yeah, starting pitching is that one thing, that one bugaboo that we always talked about with the Yankees, and now it's a little less intense because you've got Garrett Cole and he looked great on Thursday. But yeah, losing Paxton for any stretch of time would be a problem for the Yankees, and that's part of the reason. That's pretty much the whole reason why I didn't pick the Yankees to make the playoffs, because I thought injuries would be a concern.
Another thing with the Yankees, which for me is very puzzling, and Mike and I were talking about this before we went on air. What is it with the Yankees and Clint Frazier? What is it about Clint Frazier's game that the Yankees don't like? I mean, how is this guy not in the starting lineup every day?
I don't know what more he has to do, honestly. I mean, he played good soldier by not really creating a stir when he didn't play last year. This year he looked good in the exhibition games. He hit the home run with the mask on. He's a big time prospect. I don't know why they continue to go to guys like Mike Tauchman. Right. When and no disrespect to Mike Tauchman, he's a productive player, but Clint Frazier is your future. And if you're not going to use him, then trade him while his value is high. Like I said, I don't get that. There's got to be something we don't know in that situation. But yeah, that's a puzzler to me.
And lastly, the extra inning rule. I absolutely hate it, but then I liked it. It was kind of strange. I mean, I hate it. I mean, bottom line is I hate it. But what is interesting is that, the Mets coming up in the bottom of the 10th, down 3, basically just have to get one base runner on to bring tying run to the plate. But I hate it. I hate the fact that the pitcher, it doesn't count against his earned run average. There's just so many things wrong with it. Did you like it, or are you in the same boat as me?
It's hokey. I don't know if I like it or hate it. I won't say I hate it, but I do think it's hokey. I think if you want to speed up the game, I say go all out. Make it bases loaded with one out, so you can have innings end on one pitch with a double play or with a grand slam in the home half of the inning. I think it's like you said. I hated it in the beginning, and then I liked it because all you needed was a single to get the tying run up and two singles to get the winning run up. I think it kind of reminds me of the college football overtime rule, where you go into overtime at 14-14, and a game could end at 63-62.
Right.
It's just, I think you're going to get a lot of games that go into extra innings 1-1 that'll finish 7-6. It's going to be frantic. I think it's fine for this season. I think this season, it's the same way I feel about the extra playoff teams. I think it's fine for this season. I don't necessarily like it in a 162-game season. I certainly don't like the extra playoff teams for a 162-game season. I'd have more of a problem than the extra inning rule. But, yeah, I do think it's a little hokey.
All right, John Coppinger heard here each and every week with the Major League Baseball report. Quick break on the other side. NHL Hall of Famer Bryan Trottier. So keep it tuned right here.
Decolator Cohen and DePrisco, LLP, is pleased to introduce their website, policeofficersrighttosue.com, as an educational and informative site designed to instruct members of the law enforcement community of their civil rights in line of duty accidents. Many law enforcement members are not aware of their rights to sue and fail to bring lawsuits within a specific time frame, thereby forfeiting their ability to seek rightful compensation against those parties that cause officers to be injured. PoliceofficersRightToSue.com provides successful past results of line-of-duty lawsuits. These examples range from officers being provided with inadequate equipment, RMP accidents, slip and falls, and station house mishaps. If any law enforcement member has a question regarding a potential lawsuit, they can contact DCD at policeofficersrighttosue.com or at 1-800-901-1LAW. That's policeofficersrighttosue.com or 1-800-901-1LAW.
And welcome back to 540 AM Sports Talk New York. Mark Roseman, Ryan Sherman, Mike Capice with you this Sunday evening. Would like to thank everyone that's watching us on the Facebook Live app. Ken Reitz, former baseball player, Tom Laidlaw out there. Some pretty big names watching us, so we'll like it as well. Shout out to Brian Shelley out there as well. So we really appreciate everyone that watches us on the Facebook or YouTube Live apps. Make sure if you want, you can throw some comments our way as well, and we can get to it as well when we have our guest on. Joining us now is the man who played 18 seasons in the National Hockey League for the New York Islanders and Pittsburgh Penguins. He won 4 Stanley Cups with the Islanders, 2 with the Penguins, and 1 as assistant coach with the Colorado Avalanche. He holds the NHL record for points in a single period with 4 goals and 2 assists in the second period against my team, the New York Rangers, December 23rd, 1978. He's also one of only 8 NHL players with multiple 5-goal games. He was named one of the 100 greatest NHL players in history. He was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility in 1997. His number 19 was raised to the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum rafters on October 20th, 2001. It is a pleasure to welcome Hockey Hall of Famer Bryan Trottier to Sports Talk New York. Welcome, Bryan. How you doing?
Hi, Mark. How are you? I'm great. Thank you.
Doing great. You know, it's very interesting because if you look back in time, you see that you were a second-round pick, 22nd overall in the 1974 draft, and you wonder how you could have possibly been a second-round draft pick. But when you look deeper into that draft, the NHL at that time was reacting to the threat of the World Hockey Association, and that draft had a very heavy emphasis on underage players, teenagers who were 17 and 18 years old. You were the 9th underage player taken that year. What do you remember most about draft day?
Well, it was by telephone. It wasn't much hoopla like there is today, but it was a pretty exciting day because for about a month before that draft, we were talking to the World Hockey Association, Cincinnati Stingers. They offered $500,000, $50,000 for 10 years. I mean, it's more money than my dad would have seen his whole lifetime. And we had to kind of, make a real tough decision based on some really good advice from some attorneys and local attorneys right in Footprint, Saskatchewan. And they said, this is a little out of our league, but I wouldn't do that. I'd just kind of use some leverage with the NHL and see what happens. And then the day before the NHL draft, the Cincinnati Stingers pulled the contract. And they threatened, they said, we'll pull the contract if you go in the NHL draft. And we're like, okay, I hope you don't. But, it'd be nice to be able to, have something. But it was just, it was kind of a whirlwind. And for me, it was an exciting time. When you have no money, you say, what the heck's the difference? You just figure something good's going to happen here. But, I remember getting the phone calls from Bill Torrey and talking to Odd Erickson and Earl Ingerfield and Gary Kirk and Al Arbor, and it was a really exciting time. And Bill hung up the phone. He said, "Meet me in Montreal in 3 days," and we signed the contract. And it was just that fast. I mean, it went so quick. Like Mom and Dad got looped on the plane out to Montreal, and so. We got off the plane. We were up in the office, and Dad, all the way out there, says, "Okay, whatever they offer us, remember, we're going home to think about it." I'm like, "All right, we got a plan. Their second offer will always be better than the first offer." I'm like, "All right, good." So it turned out like when they put that contract, it was like, it was like $100,000 for 5 years. It was like $250,000 signing bonus month. Dad goes, "Where's the pen?" "What happened to the plan, Dad?" He goes, they're never going to offer more than that. So
Wow.
It was really kind of a funny story with a fun time, exciting time. They bought me a car of my choice. I gave that to Mom and Dad as a signing bonus, and so that all that fun stuff. It's just a real good memory.
You go even deeper into that draft. You were projected as a very promising forward. The Islanders suggested that you spend another year in junior, making you the only underage player to wait to turn pro following that draft. But it's interesting to note that of all those underage players, as well as all the players drafted that year, you played more NHL games than all of them. How much did that final season at Lethbridge, one in which you would lead the league with 98 assists, 144 points, earning you the most valuable player award under former New York Islander coach Earl Ingerfield, help your transition into the NHL the following year?
Well, I think it was imperative. Like the Islanders took a chance. It was a long shot, and when I look back, and Earl Ingerfield and Gary Kirk were the two guys that scouted me in the Western Hockey League, and they really kind of must have did a good sales job, because I was a 5'6", 160 pounds. I wasn't ready for the NHL, and there was no way I was going to make the NHL. But I had this really cool teammate, Tiger Williams, that kind of toughened me up a little bit. That year, that draft year, Tiger's draft year, and he was drafted by Toronto. I went to New York, and we worked out that whole summer together. And I was kind of holding my breath. And when they finally told me I was heading back to junior, I was a little relieved, because I wasn't man tough. I wasn't man strong. And that year back, I put on 15 pounds, grew another couple inches, and went to camp the next year, 195, 5'11", and I still wasn't strong enough. Like that first year in the NHL, I was 19 years old. I felt I was okay quick enough, and I had to be quick or I'd get beat up. They had guys like King Kong Korab in the league. I was like, oh my God, he was a monster. But thank God he's a gentle giant. But I tried not to make those big monsters mad, but they just always wanted a little piece of me anyway, because I like to bump guys. But it was just kind of an interesting, intriguing transition. But that year back in junior was, I think, a real smart. Bill Torrey told me when we signed the contract, I don't know if you're going to make the team this fall, but you're going to be a big part of our future. And I came to camp that year. There were 60 rookies came to camp in 1975. And we had one big locker room at the old Racket and Rink in Farmingdale. And I was last man standing. I had this whole room. There were 60 of us in this room, and I was last man standing. And I could not believe it. And they finally brought me down to the locker room there. It was almost like the beginning of the season. And I dressed at the big locker room. I dressed in the weight room. So there's no fringe benefits being like, you think, oh my God, you're a young kid. They'll try to throw you a lifeline. They made things tough. And it was okay. You get on the first road trip, and you're in charge of all the luggage. I made sure everybody's luggage made it to the hotel room. No problem. The second road trip, I started screwing up, and the guys were like, "Okay, you're not in charge of luggage anymore." And I just like, oh my God, thank goodness. And but you pay your dues, and it's okay. It was a great, good group of guys like Eddie Westfall, JP Parisi, Eddie West, Jerry Hart. There was a whole bunch of guys, Drew and they took me under the wing. And French guys loved me because my last name was French, Trottier. So I was always out with the French guys. They spoke French to me all night. I understood nothing. But I was very, very jealous, Mark, of the guys that went the year before, like Pierre LaRouche and, oh God, there's a bunch of them, Grant Mulvey, and I was like, oh my God, they're so lucky to play in the NHL. But like that year was important for me. I think I got a little bit stronger. I got to play under Earl Ingerfield and got a little more maturity. He put me in every situation to learn some leadership, but they cared to see that year, so it was really good. Had a great year, won MVP at the first World Juniors in Winnipeg that year. So there was a lot of good things happened, and I felt, just your self-esteem, your confidence kind of grew. And I didn't go into camp cocky, believe me, because I was really kind of that Saskatchewan nervous, I think, where you're like, oh my God, I want to be optimistic and hopeful, but at the same time, I better watch my P's and Q's, and better to be seen, not heard kind of thing. But the guys were great. They're a little tough on me, but I think it was all in just normal, good fun, and just, hey, pay your dues, kid, you're going to be fine. And I kind of had to earn it, and that was good. I roomed with Eddie Westfall. He was my first roommate, and talk about luck. Like, here's a guy, a former Stanley Cup winner, and just a super all-around good guy. He had kids my age, and I was like, oh my God, he was like a father figure. Here's Al Arbor, kids my age is my father figure. Phil Torrey, kids my age. These guys were all my father figures. So, like, I'd say to myself, I lucked out. I went to a team that, they treated me like one of their kids. Hey, Al Arbor used to say to me, Bryan, my two favorite things Al Arbor used to say to me, like our coach in New York, he'd say the same things my dad would say to me. Bear down and smarten up. I used to love that. I'm like, what are you talking to my dad? What the Christ? He says the same thing. But that's just, I think, him being a dad and recognize I'm still a kid, or I don't know. But it was, I never felt like I was getting picked on. I never felt like I was getting, like just any kind of like special treatment. But it was unique in the fact that I had to go back to junior, stay that year, come back, and just kind of like springboard into that year with guys that were just, ready to do something fun.
It's pretty amazing. I have not heard the term racket rink in so many years. I remember that vividly, that play. So the following season, you find yourself in the NHL. Coach Al Arbor has you centering a line between Clark Gillies and Billy Harris. Your first game is against the Kansas City Scouts, one in which it looked like the Islanders had won the game in the final minute until Drew Druin's goal was waved off. What do you remember most about that first NHL game?
I remember everything and anything. Like, you mentioned anything about that game, and it was like pretty special because it was the first time I got to put a jersey on, a New York Islander jersey on, with number 19 on the back and my name and the big Islander crest on the front. I played 13 exhibition games that year, unheard of for a kid. Cause I think training camp in those days was like something like 33 days or something. But we played 13 exhibition games. I think there was one stretch 4 and 5 nights. I didn't miss a game, didn't miss a shift, didn't score a goal, didn't get a point, I don't think, in all of the training camp. But I didn't miss a hit. I hit everything that moved. Anything that was near me, I tried to throw a body check. And, and I used to think, I guess I might go back to junior, because that was the threat. If I didn't make the team, I'd have to go back to junior. I couldn't go to the minors because I was still 19. And I said, I guess I'm going back to juniors, and I was kind of disappointed a little bit to a degree. Nobody said a word, and then finally Al Arbor came out to me like 2 days before camp was over, the last guy in that big room down at the far end, and he said, kid, I think you should find a place to live. So I bunked in with a family from Long Island because I had no clue what to do, how to take care of myself. But the Amendola family was still like my surrogate family. But in that Kansas City game, I remember the flight out there. I remember the excitement of putting that jersey on, the goosebumps. Again, no points that game, but I hit everything that moved. I was just like so excited. And Al Arbor goes, "Okay, kid, it's time to start playing some hockey. We know you can throw the body. We know you can play physical game. You got to start playing hockey." And it was kind of a nice little message. And, he didn't yell at me. He just kind of gave me okay, you're running around like chicken with your head cut off. I think he called it Chinese fire drill is what he called it. He said, but you got to make sure, you play some hockey. We know you can hit. We know you can play physical. We like that part of your game, but, play some hockey.
Wow.
And the next game, I got on the power play, boom, click, 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 and we lit it up.
Yeah, really. I mean, that's what makes Al Arbor such a great coach. He tells you after your first game where you don't have any points and you're hitting everything, play hockey. So you go out, second game is at the Nassau Coliseum, and you get a hat trick and have 5 points. So, how much does that game allow you to exhale? And, because it seems like from everything you're telling us back then, you worried that you're going to go back to juniors, you're kind of in awe of everything that's going on. But how much did that 5-point game let you exhale and say, okay, I belong here?
Well, it helps your confidence. Again, the guys in the locker room were good. I forget, hey, good game, kid, but one game doesn't make a career. You're just, and it was really funny because my locker was was the last locker, and I sat next to this podcast, so it was the last locker on that side. And they go, remember, kid, you're the last locker, so you're the first one out the door. When and it was just all those little reminders from the veterans were just good natured joking, but it kind of kept me just grounded a little bit. Don't get your head too high. There's the long season, and I remember after the first week, and the hockey news was the big thing back in those days. And there was my name at the top of the scoring list with Guy Lafleur. I said, I'm going to take a picture of this. They only had 10 millimeter cameras in those days. They didn't have 35 millimeter cameras yet. So it was so comical. It looked so grainy and so black and white. It was so comical. I took a picture of my name with Guy Lafleur at the top of the scoring race at the end of the first week. But all those fun memories are just really fun things that, it helps your confidence. It helps your growth. I was with a good group of guys playing with really good players. Clark Gillies on the left, he was like my Tiger Williams. Don't touch Bryan out there, kind of. Then you had Billy Harris, that first round draft choice. Great hands, great sniper, just a real good poised guy. Wanted to go out there and contribute. And just popped in on the point, sat next to him in the locker room. We're just a bunch of young kids, young and dumb, we called ourselves. But I think that helps to a degree because you're playing on your passion. You're playing on your love of the game and work ethic and. Your ability to want to contribute to the group and your friendships, your bonds, you're building. And so, yeah, I felt like a big part of it after that first game. I felt a little accepted. The crowd at Long Island was fantastic. All of a sudden, I was like this new dynamo, and I was like, okay, to keep it simple, I was just not. I never saw myself as being a flashy player, like one of these, Crosby kind of kids, but I was kind of one of these guys, give and go kick guy who could, kind of chunk in a couple goals around the net. I didn't have this brilliant hard slap shot like Mike Bossy. I wasn't like a dynamic stick handler. I was just like kind of a sneaky little kid from Saskatchewan that got picked up some things, and it was try to contribute as much as possible. But the one thing I really liked doing, and it was really kind of that's just part of growing up with my mom and dad, was you just want to be a winner. You want to be a part of something fun. You want to be winning to me was more fun than scoring goals. We won, that was awesome. If I scored a goal, even better. But if you could help the team win, find a way to help the team win, that was my bottom line.
It's funny you mentioned the hockey news and Guy Lafleur and you and that picture, because only diehard Slapshot fans will note this. But there's a hockey news that appears in the stands, and I believe in the opening scene, they're reading the hockey news, and you and Guy Lafleur are on the cover of that hockey news. So you do make a cameo in the movie Slapshot, by the way.
I know Dave Hansen. I chuckle about that.
So, after 11 games, you 20 points. You finished the year league records for rookie assistant points, breaking Marcel Dionne's totals, which will later on be broken by Peter Stastny of the Quebec Nordiques. You win the Calder Top Rookie, the second in 3 years for the Islanders. You're 19 years old. Your team loses in the semifinals to the team that went on to win the Stanley Cup, the Montreal Canadiens. But as a 19-year-old, looking around at the young talent, forget about the father figures and the people that mentored you, Denny Potvin, Clark Gillies, Bob Nystrom, Bob Bourne, Andre Saint Laurent, all of you were under 24. I know you're only 19 at that time and probably really might not have a complete grasp, but did you get the feeling that there's a really solid young foundation that could, do some special things going forward?
We felt as a group, and it wasn't just the veteran guys, it was the young kids. We felt as a group that we had something special here. The power play was kind of a bit of our biggest positive, I think, as a group, because like Clark, myself, Billy Harris, Dennis Potvin, we were kind of like having some good fortune on that power play through the season, and we kind of hit a rut in the playoffs. And you need your special teams in the playoffs. So we really kind of held ourselves accountable. We didn't like that, and we talked about it. We talked about it as a young group, because as Judra and JP Parisi at Westfall, they were like the veteran power play group, and we wanted to be the guys that kind of grab a hold of the ball and be the guys that could be dependable on that power play, whether it was killing penalties or just contribute somehow. And that power play was a big part of it. But the tough part for me, and it's probably the same for a lot of guys, not being a drinker and not getting into bars and being part of that atmosphere after games, post games, or just being around the guys. So that was a little tough. So I'd have to go back to the hotels, go to the hotel by myself, eat by myself after the games, and kind of like, I don't want to say commiserate after a loss, but just kind of reflect on the game, whether win, lose, or draw, all by myself, and then wait for the guys to come back, and they want to go right to bed. Eddie Westfall, like, hey, see you in the morning, kid. I'm like, okay. He'd have his coffee, he'd be up in the morning, have us do it crosswords, and I'd sleep till the last minute because I'm just a kid. And there was that offset of veteran, young, veteran, and so I had that to kind of overcome to a degree. But just besides that, I think we knew as a group, this team can do something more than what we're accomplishing right now. But playing against Montreal in the playoffs was a wonderful gauge, because you kind of steal things from champions and you see how they perform, how they practice, how they dress, how they conduct themselves. And we wanted to be the Montreal Canadiens, so we studied them. I sit there and watch their practices, and Claude Ruel screaming at the guys, 6 seconds, la second, like you're trying to hurry the guys, give them some urgency. I said, wow, that's awesome. And then I had Claude Ruel in a couple All-Star games. Brian, skate, feet, space, hurry. And you talking French to me like I understood every word. I had no clue what that he was saying. But it was really fun to be a part of that little Montreal Canadiens atmosphere, to hang with Guy Lafleur times and Larry Robinson and Bob Gainey, and to kind of like see how they carried themselves, and how they just the confidence, and so we started stealing some of their stuff, and so that's how you gauge yourself and you grow, and you start feeling like, what, we lost to the champions, maybe we'll get them, maybe we'll have a little more success down the road. We felt like we had something better in the engine.
The 1978-79 Islanders Rangers series is one that's still talked about to this day. What was different about that playoff series for you as opposed to all the others you had played in up until that point?
Well, I always said this. Like, I said that through the playoffs, and I hope it's documented somewhere. But John Davidson was the biggest difference for us in that playoff. Like, we couldn't put anything past John Davidson. And then when he got hurt the next round, I think it affected the Rangers to a degree, because I think he hurt his knee. And, he was just on fire. And that's what happens in playoffs, is these goaltenders get red hot, and they carry a team. And to this day, I say, Ken Dryden and John Davidson are my two toughest goalies. They were big goalies. They covered a lot of net. I gave him the most of the credit, but as a group, that Ranger series, I mean, they had... we were supposed to win. The Islanders were supposed to win because we had won, I think, the division, the conference, the league, or whatever. So, the pressure was on us. They had no pressure, but, they carried themselves real well. They had a veteran leader, Phil Esposito. He really kind of, I think, was the face of the team to a degree, and the rest of the team kind of rallied around that. But John Davidson, to me, that 79 series, I went to bed, dreaming of John Davidson. I hate this guy. But such respect for the man, because in junior hockey, he was a menace. We go into Calgary Centennials, and John Davidson was the toughest guy on the Calgary Centennial team. He was just the biggest, toughest guy on their team, and what a presence! And so he was a great goalie in junior. Then he came to the NHL. I used to say to myself when he's in St. Louis, the Ranger, I was like, oh my God, this guy, I got to face him again. So maybe he was in my head or in my grill or something. But no, I just think he was the difference for me in that '79 series.
You learned as a team from that loss. The following year, you win the first of 4 Stanley Cups with the Islanders. You won the Conn Smythe Trophy as the playoff MVP. And then you become an important part of the Penguins team that won 2 straight titles. Stars such as Mario Lemieux and Jaromir Jagr attribute much of the team's success to your leadership. Of the 6 Cups as a player, is there one that stands out to you the most gratifying? And the moment you first got to touch the Stanley Cup, what was the thoughts that went through your head?
Well, Mark, to like I would say this, like the greatest moment in hockey, like Bobby Nixon scores the overtime goal. I'm a champion in that section. That's the moment that you dream about as a little kid. You say, okay, I want to be the Stanley Cup champion. So that's my greatest moment. Like Bobby's overtime goal. I thank him to this day. He's sick of me saying thank you, but I still thank him. But it's really that's what you dedicate your life to. That's the practice. That's what you're working towards from the time you're a little kid, 8 years old. I wanted to be Jean Beliveau, raise the Stanley Cup over my head. And finally it happens that when you bring the cup up here, you touch it, how cool it is to touch. And you feel the names that are engraved on it. And you like read some of these names and you think, my God, they're going to put my name on it. It's going to be on there forever. Gordie Howe, Pierre Pawat, Jean Beliveau. I look for Jean Beliveau. I look for Gordie Howe. I look for their names. And it's so cool. And here we are going behind the Montreal Canadiens, the great Montreal Canadiens teams of the late '70s, and we looked at our spot. That's going to be the Islanders spot, and that to me was still my favorite, cup for that reason. Gratifying Stanley Cup, to be able to walk through 19 series and to be able to I say this with all great respect to the teams we played, whether it was Vancouver Canucks or the Edmonton Oilers, but we won a series, 4 straight in the Stanley Cup Finals. That's hard to do, and we're proud of that 19 series in a row. Like that is really kind of a great accomplishment and a fun record to hold as a group. The 4 Stanley Cups is one thing, but we got to the finals almost 5 years in a row. We were right there. Yeah. And those creepy Oilers knocked us off, but I just, it's to their credit, but also, it's the year before we beat the Oilers was kind of a fun thing. The first one here in Pittsburgh was special because it was Pittsburgh's first Stanley Cup as a city, as an organization. So to share that, having won the first one in New York and then experiencing that all over again, the first one here in Pittsburgh was pretty gratifying. And after people say, oh, Bryan, you're a little long in the tooth, but you might not ever win again. And I came on a 1-year contract to Pittsburgh to win a Stanley Cup with Mario Lemieux, and I did it. And Craig and I crack up about it because Craig Patrick and I that was our negotiation. Why do you want to come to Pittsburgh? I said, because I want to win a Stanley Cup with Mario Lemieux. He goes, I'll have a contract to you in a half an hour. It was really kind of, those kinds of things make it fun. There's just really good memories.
So I would love to know what you thought of not only now being compared to by Al Arbor to someone like Wayne Gretzky, but in the moment when it was, happening and he was breaking records, you were breaking records, winning MVPs. What did it mean to have your coach's confidence in you that you were the best player in the league, no matter what anyone else said? What did that do for you?
Well, it's the highest compliment you could get. I mean, of all people, your dad or whatever, but when your head coach, is in your corner. And I think Al got kind of cornered because Gretzky had a 6-point game that night, and we beat them 7-6 or 8-6. It was a bit of a fire wagon hockey, and I don't know if I had maybe a couple points or whatever, but that doesn't matter. There was just that we won the game. I think Al got cornered a little bit. Okay, if you had to take Trottier, Gretzky, I think Bryan does just a little bit more than, Wayne's such a dynamic. I didn't have the offensive skills that Wayne. I could play that offensive role. I'm not like Wayne. I didn't even try to compare myself to Wayne in that area. But, I don't think Wayne tries to compare himself to me in in other parts of the game where there's, battling in corners or, like face-off percentages, I don't know. I just say to myself, I like the comparisons and the contrasts of being compared to, like, whether it was Gilbert Perreault, what an honor. Wayne Gretzky, what an honor. Like, if somebody compared me to somebody else, and now you got young kids like Taves being compared to Bryan Trottier, I think that's fun. I think those kinds of things are always fun to be compared to somebody, but it's such a high honor, a compliment when people compare you to some great players, whether it's before you, during your career, or after your career. I think it's just the highest compliment you can get, because it's nice to be remembered or nice to be compared to greatness, and I think that's fun. But I keep everything in perspective, in a sense, because I know my strengths, and I know kind of like when I reflect on my game, I kind of know what I'm really kind of good at, and I don't even try to like take any kind of like credit for something that I don't dare take credit for, because it's just not our nature as hockey players.
And you can tell how well respected you are by great minds in the game, like Al Arbour, one of them. But Glenn Sather thought so highly of you and your hockey IQ that he named you the head coach of the New York Rangers. That head coaching job with the Rangers lasted only 54 games, slightly longer than the halfway mark of the season. You had a 21-26 6-1 record. In all fairness, that was an aging team with really a patchwork of players that really didn't mesh. Maybe guys like Holik, Messier, Berlander, and Lindros. Maybe a veteran coach may have been a better fit. Do you think if you had to coach a team similar to what the Rangers have now, a much more greater infusion of youth and only a few veterans, things might have been a little different?
I would take it either way, Mark. Like the team I had was fantastic. Like, great group of guys: Mark Messier, Eric Lindros, Brian Leach. You name them all. Pavel Bure, Mike Richter. You talk about good players; they're great players and great people. So walk into that locker room, it was just awesome. And we had a group of guys that wanted to win. What happened to us as a group, and it happens to everybody, is we got decimated by injuries. The first guy we lost was Pavel Bure. Pavel had, I think he had 30 goals at Christmas. He's on 10 or 12 shorthanded goals. Like, he's on fire. And all of a sudden he gets injured. 2 knee injuries. He's out for the year. Yeah. Then we get Brian Leach out. Then we get Mark Messier goes down with an ankle, block shot. We missed him for a month and a half. We got Brian Leach goes down with an ankle injury. We've got Mike Richter goes out with a concussion. We've got a young Danny Blackburn who's like fantastic in that. I think he won some like 26 games in a row as a 19-year-old goaltender. And then we get it was just a dynamic time with a dynamic group of guys we just got decimated by injuries. And I think Glenn was getting a little nervous in the sense that, and Glenn's one of the best people I've ever worked for. Glenn Sather is one of the best people I've ever worked for. Like, you can't ask for a better boss. And I think he got a little nervous, saying, I think Brian's going to have a nervous breakdown. I was loving it in a sense, but at the same time, we were whole patch this thing together. Peter Nedved was my number 1 center at the time, and he was playing outstanding. Yeah. We were getting a lot of mileage out of a lot of guys. We got Mike Dunham come in and played some great hockey for us. We got Barbara came in, and he was playing some great goaltending for us. I mean, it was a great year. Like, that had to be a tough decision for Glenn to make at the time. But it was a great opportunity for me. And you take a young team, you take a veteran team. I think when you're a coach, you take whatever you get and you try to blend it as best you can. And I can't thank those players. They played their hearts out for me, and I thank every one of them.
And lastly, you're going to be back behind the bench as a coach, as you, along with 7 other Hall of Famers, Guy Charbonneau, Grant Fuhr, Eddie Johnstone, John LeClaire, Joe Mullen, Larry Murphy, Angelo Ruggiero, will each coach one of the 8 3-ice teams. That represents nearly 8,000 games played, 29 All-Star appearances, 28 Stanley Cup championships, 5 Olympic medals. Can you tell our audience a little bit about 3-ice? And is this maybe a springboard? Do you think you'd like to get back into the NHL as a head coach?
I'll try to answer those all in reverse, if that's okay. I would love to get back at the NHL. Always looking back. I got my son through high school. school. He's starting college, so he's the youngest. And I've got a lot more time on my hands now, but I've really spent the last 5-6 years trying to get him going. Great young athlete, just a terrific kid. I've been gave me an opportunity here to be a dad, and I'm not a grandfather, but with him off to college, I've got more time. So I'd love to get back in the NHL at some point, in some role, with a good organization that's going to take my experiences and my sense of culture and winning and that kind of stuff, and try to help and be part of something fun, be part of something that's successful. Yeah, without a doubt. The 3-ice is just a really good opportunity for players to showcase themselves, the highest skill they can have, because who doesn't like 3-on-3 hockey? I mean, it's going to be kind of fire wagon hockey, end-to-end, a lot of action, good speed. Goaltenders are going to see a lot of shots. There's going to be fast and furious, a little frantic at times. For the coaches, we've had some great meetings. The guys are all great. Everybody's all about the players and the game. Nobody's in this for the ego. We're all in this thing to have some fun for the players, showcase our players, let their skills shine, promote the game in the best possible sense, and bring another level opportunity for skill to shine. At the same time, fans to enjoy the purest of hockey, and so it's going to be entertainment. It's going to be entertainment. We're going to keep it moving. Puck's going to keep moving as much as we possibly can. Puck's off the screen. We talked about this. Instead of the puck hitting the mesh and being a whistle, puck off the mesh is going to stay in action. So those little fun little rules are going to make it really just make the game move that much quicker. No stoppages of play. Keep it going. A goalie makes a save, puts his hand on the puck, players back off, the goalie moves the puck, and away it goes again. There's the least amount of face-offs, more action, the better off I think the game is. Probably won't be a lot of hitting. There'll probably be a lot of good, passing, skating, shooting, scoring, plays to the net. Who doesn't love that?
Gotta love it. Bryan, just like you said that, when you closed your eyes, John Davidson was in your head. I was a Ranger fan growing up in Long Island, and, number 19, every time I shut my eyes when the Rangers were eliminated and you guys were beating them, number 19 was in my head. I want to thank you so much for your time tonight, and I'm going to forgive you for all those great games you had against the New York Rangers.
Mark, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. And you know what? You grew up at a great time on Long Island because the hockey was hot.
Yep.
But this level of hockey right now, I give the NHL such high marks for making such a valiant effort to bring the game, sports, the entertainment value. I give them such high marks. This is going to be a real fun summer, fall here for the game of hockey.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Bryan Trottier, Hall of Famer. We'll be back with the Soho Table Hockey Report with Russ Cohn next.
Since 1952, Solomon's Jewelers has been the name to trust on Long Island for jewelry. Solomon's Jewelers is a 60-year-old family-owned business run by jewelry professionals and Gemological Institute of America graduates. 3 generations of experience let them offer you certified appraisals. They have a highly skilled design, repair, and watchmaker staff on premises for all your restyling needs. Solomon Jewelers offers a wide variety of magnificent designer couture jewelry, name brand watches, and certified diamonds. Solomon Jewelers pride themselves on having the best customer service and support in the jewelry industry. They are there with 60 years of experience behind them to help educate and guide you through every step of your jewelry purchase. Solomon Jewelers has 2 convenient locations to serve Long Island's jewelry needs. 74 Minetto Hill Plaza, Plainview, New York, or 1030 Willis Avenue, Albertston, New York. Visit them on the web at www.solomonjewelers.com. Solomon Jewelers, serving Long Island since 1952.
And welcome back to 540 AM Sports Talk New York. Mark Roseman and Mike Apiece, Ryan Sherman with you this Sunday evening. It's time now for the NHL Report with Russ Cohn, sponsored by our friends over at Soho Table Hockey. What's table hockey, you say? Some of us might have grown up with rod hockey or bubble hockey or even air hockey. Soho Table Hockey has embraced the nostalgia of those old tabletop games and designed a whole new board for the future. Handcrafted with designer wood, state-of-the-art playing surface, unbendable rods. Even better, the exceptional quality and design allows the game to stand up to the intensity of tournaments, which is why Soho Table Hockey is the #1 choice of championship players throughout the world. Visit SohoTableHockey.com to learn more and start your order now on a custom game. All right, Russ, we got like 3 minutes here, so we're going to really blow through the brackets here, and you and I will go through them. All right, let's start with the Leafs and Blue Jackets. What do you think is going to happen there?
I'm going to go with Columbus. I think at the end of the day, the Leafs aren't going to open the throttle on their offense, and I think if they do that, they'll play into Torts' hand, who's going to try and keep the score down anyhow. As long as Torts gets decent goaltending, which I think they will, I think they'll probably go with Korpisalo. They've got all their defensemen back, and so I like Columbus in this.
You know what? I was going back and forth with that. I just think Matthews, Marner, and Tavares, top offensive teams in the league. However, they're going to have their hands full, like you said, with, obviously Torts and his defense, Seth Jones and Werenski. I just think that somehow the Leafs find a way. I think they're the more talented team. I think they survive in 5. All right, Pens, Habs, what do you got?
I'm going with a sweep for the Pens. Habs had some guys that were out. Carey Price, the 1 year he was doing great in the playoffs. Unfortunately, Chris Kreider took him out. He hasn't been fantastic in the playoffs, so I really think that this sets up really well for the Penguins, and they're going to be the only team I picked to sweep.
All right, I think that Carey Price might steal 1, but I agree with you. I think it's the Pens, no doubt. Jets, Flames, what do you think?
I'm going to go with the Jets. I just think they're too strong down the middle. They have a great power play, and their goaltending is going to be the difference. Connor Hellebuyck will be the difference. Unfortunately, Calgary is not really set on their goaltending, but I think this one goes to 5, but I'm going to take the Jets.
I take the Jets also in that, and it's unbelievable considering that they lost mostly all their defensemen to free agency, but you're right.
Yeah.
Top 6 and lights-out goaltending gets them the win as well. All right, Blackhawks, Oilers, what do you got?
I'm going to go with Oilers in 5. It could be a sweep, though, if there's no Corey Crawford. I mean, I can't imagine Chicago is going to be able to win much with Malcolm Subban, but we'll see what happens with that. But the Edmonton's defense is much better than people give it credit for.
Agreed. And regular season wins over the Oilers mean nothing. Blackhawks defensive numbers are just bad. Slot passes against ranked 31st. Rush passes against 30th. Inner slot shots ranked 31st. All that, and then you add the fact that, they generate a lot of offense, but it's at the cost of a running gun style, and you can't do that against McDavid and Draisaitl.
No.
I agree. Oilers win that one easily. All right, Canucks versus Wild. What do you got?
I'm going to go with the Minnesota Wild. I'm not sure who's going to be in net, although I think it's going to be Dubnyk, but certainly Stalock helped get him to this point in the playoffs. I think everything Bill Guerin's done there has fired this team up, and I think it's the last go-around for a guy like Zach Parise, who I think will end up on the island. And so I just happen to think the Wild will get this done. I'm going to go with them in 5.
I'm going with the Canucks just because of their power play, and I think in playoff special teams win. I think that was a close one for me. I think I'm going with the Canucks. All right, Coyotes versus Predators.
Who's it versus Predators? Sorry?
Coyotes,
right. Although with everything that just went on with John Chaika, I
crazy.
think, I think that with Taylor Hall possibly coming back, he could be fired up. I just have a feeling the Coyotes are the better team here. Nashville's goaltending's not set. They can't score goals. I'm going to go Coyotes in 5.
Yeah, I'm going with the Coyotes as well. All right, Islanders, Panthers, and Rangers, Canes.
Well, Islanders, Panthers. I'm going to go Islanders in 5. It's going to be close. I think Bob will be better. I think the difference will be Florida's just lack of scoring.
Yeah, I'm going.
And then Rangers. I'm going to go Canes in 5 because if they just get NHL average goaltending, they've got the best defense. They're strong down the middle, and I don't think the Rangers' defense will be up for the task.
I'm going Islanders in 4. I think Trotz is, the Islanders are playing the best defense they've had in years. I think they're going to be able to shut down the Panthers. And I'm going to go Rangers in 5. It's not going to be easy. I think with Dougie Hamilton out, the door is open. And I have a feeling that Kakko and Buchnevich are going to be huge in this. I think they've come back a little stronger. I'm going with the Rangers in 5 in that one.
Yeah, no, the Rangers have a great offense, but that Carolina blue line's a lot better than people are giving it credit for.
Agreed. All right, Russ, we'll have actual games to talk about next week. Russ Cohn here each and every week with the Soho Table Hockey Report. It's time for the Disaster Cleanup Services NBA report with Chaim Tauber. If your property has been affected by water or fire damage, look no further than the professionals at Disaster Cleanup Services. Independently owned and operated, Disaster Cleanup Services is a tri-state leader in property damage cleanup, specializing in water and fire damage restoration, mold remediation, sewage cleanup and decontamination, lead and asbestos abatement, and much more. For information, visit their website, www.the4disasters.com. Call today, mention the Sports Talk New York show for a free in-home inspection at 1-800-297-WATER. All right. You know what? Unfortunately, I think this is going to be a disaster. I have a feeling you're going to think opposite, Chaim. We got 3 minutes here. Tom Thibodeau, 5-6 years ago, I think it would have been a great hire. Now, I think, the NBA has passed him by. He's a great NBA mind, but I think the players coming in are younger, and I don't know if he's the guy with the right message. Give me your thoughts.
I'm actually inclined to agree with you to an extent. I think that but there are still some things that are yet to be determined. The speculation is that Mike Miller is still going to be on the staff, as will Mike Woodson, which give them two high-profile defensive minds and an identity that the team hasn't had. Now, we've been talking about identity for 25 years now.
Exactly.
But, this is the first real tie to the 90s team, to the 90s teams, at least as far as the front office goes, and, the first real guy who kind of throws it back to that mindset, except for maybe Mike Woodson himself, who was the only coach who brought them to the playoffs since. He can grate on younger players, and if they don't buy in, the question is who's the front office going to side with. But that he is looking at a 5-year deal, pretty much the contract that Leon Rose and Worldwide West also have. There's some harmony in the front office. I personally would have preferred Kenny Atkinson. I think he would have been a better fit with the younger players, the developmental, particularly Mitchell Robinson, who I'm afraid Thibodeau is going to pigeonhole as his Tyson Chandler, but his offensive game is expanding. He's been working he's been posting videos everywhere for whatever that's worth. I'm hopeful. He's not the choice I would have made, but I also think that if there's some kind of synchronicity between this front office, that's something the Knicks haven't had in a long time. That's going to go a long way. I think Worldwide West was the most important piece as far as attracting free agents. Tom Thibodeau is not. And can they develop young talent? Mike Miller showed he can to an extent, and if Thibodeau can instill a defensive mindset, then you're well on your way.
All right, then we're kind of in agreement. I kind of feel the same way. I would have wanted to go with a younger, different type of mindset, but you know what? He is one of the best names out there, and the Knicks are looking for stability, so it's not a bad hire. All right, we're going to take our quick break, and on the other side, one of the greatest players in Dodger history, Steve Garvey, joins us. So keep it tuned right here to 540 AM Sports Talk New York. All right, Russ. Sorry for the short.
The views, opinions, and statements expressed in the preceding program reflect the views of program contributors and do not necessarily reflect the views of WBWD Radio, its management, or its sponsors. For questions and comments, please send us an email at contact@bali540am.com or visit us at bali540am.com.
Hello, this is Bob Garrett, CEO of Hackensack Meridian Health. Through its devastating spread, COVID-19 has touched all of us, leaving an impact on every facet of our lives. I'm so proud of the way Hackensack Meridian Health has mobilized to fight this outbreak. Our team members on the front lines fight tenaciously every day for the health of our patients and community. For us, this fight is personal. We are not only treating your families, but our own families as well. And while many things about COVID-19 remain uncertain, I am certain that together we will win this battle. If you can, please help our patients, our healthcare heroes, and our researchers by making a donation to our COVID-19 response fund. You can learn more at hackensackmeridianhealth.org/COVID-19. Sponsored by the Hackensack University Medical Center Foundation and aired by the New Jersey Broadcasters Association and this station.
Is a friend or loved one's gambling problem affecting your life emotionally, spiritually, or financially? Do you yourself take a toll on the people around you due to a gambling issue? Have the conversation. Visit 800gambler.org for access to a new video on the family, various programs, services, and resources for disordered gamblers, their friends, and or loved ones. At 800-GAMBLER, we offer support, treatment, and hope. We're just a phone call or click away. This message sponsored by the Council on Compulsive Gambling in New Jersey, the New Jersey Broadcasters Association, and this station.
Cap off a weekend of watching sports by talking about it with Mark Rosenman and AJ Carter on Sports Talk New York. All the intelligent conversation, insightful interviews, and reporters covering every story is right here on 540 AM from 7 to 8:30 Sunday nights. Check out sportstalknylive.com for previews of upcoming guests and visit their Facebook page for a chance to win prizes. Sports Talk New York, Sunday nights from 7 to 8:30 on 540 AM.
Morris County needs everyone, and especially our Spanish-speaking community, to fill out the 2020 census. It's safe, it's easy, and it's really important. If we are not fully counted, communities in Morris County from all nationalities, races, and ethnic groups will lose federal aid. Less money for housing and child care programs, less for schools and student lunches, less for senior citizens, less for community health care. Competition for federal dollars is fierce. So if you live in Morris County, please fill out your census online or on paper. No one will ask about citizenship, social security, bank accounts, or personal info. Help Morris County count in 2020. Do it now. Visit NJ Census 2020. This message sponsored by the County of Morris, the New Jersey Department of State Complete Count Commission, and aired in cooperation with the New Jersey Broadcasters Association and this station.
In the wake of the coronavirus, many schools and colleges are utilizing distance learning. While distance learning may be the best way to keep students and school staff safe, students and educators alike will surely miss the personal interactions and social opportunities that take place in regular school settings. Here are some ways to make the most of distance learning. First of all, stay on a schedule. It's easy to put things off when you work from home. Get up, get dressed, and keep regular lunch breaks. Make time for online social interactions. Students can create study groups that can meet online to review lessons and ask questions. Get up and move. Take a break every hour to take a walk around the house. Drink some water and wash your hands. Stay alert and practice healthy habits. Eat dinner as a family. Talk about what you learned each day. Keep a regular sleep schedule. It's easy to get off track and stay up late watching television or playing video games when you don't have to leave the house. Remember, it's still a school day. This message is sponsored by the New Jersey Education Association, the New Jersey Broadcasters Association, and this station.
You're listening to WBWD 540 AM, Islip, New York, a part of Universal Stations, LLC.
The views, opinions, and statements expressed in the following program reflect the views of program contributors and do not necessarily reflect the views of WBWD Radio, its management, or its sponsors. For questions and comments, please send us an email at contact@bali540am.com or visit us at bali540am.com.
Hi, I'm Howie Rose, and you're listening to Mark and AJ on 540 Sports Talk New York.
The third baseman, number 11, Mark Rosenman.
And welcome back to 540 AM Sports Talk New York. Mark Rosenman, Ryan Sherman, Mike Apiece with you this Sunday evening. If you just tuned in, you missed a great half hour with NHL Hall of Famer Bryan Trottier. Don't sweat, the podcast will be up tomorrow as well. And we want to thank everyone that is watching us on FaceTime Live and YouTube Live. Hello to Michael Rosenberg, Mike Lichter, Steve Fishberger, Carla DeVito, lots of people out there. Just we want to recognize you and we appreciate you watching. Joining us now is one of the greatest players in Dodger history. He was part of the legendary Dodger infield. He was the 1974 All-Star Game and National League MVP, the 1978 All-Star Game and National League Championship Series MVP, four-time Gold Glove winner, a 1981 World Series champ. Over a 19-year career, he batted .294 with 272 home runs, 1,308 RBIs. He holds the National League record for most consecutive games played at 1,207. Member of the Irish American Hall of Fame, the Michigan State University Athletics Hall of Fame, his junior high school, his number 6 worn when he was there, both as a Padre and Dodger, retired by the Padres. He was inducted into the Dodgers Hall of Fame, the Legends of Dodgers Baseball, as part of the inaugural class in 2018. In 1981, Lawrence Ritter and Donald Honig included him in their book, The 100 Greatest Baseball Players of All Time. It is an absolute thrill and pleasure to welcome the one and only Steve Garvey to Sports Talk New York. Welcome, Steve.
Great, thanks to be with you. That was wonderful. I'm going to have you introduce me when I do my speaking engagements. You know, That's great. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I had a long and very wonderful career, and I've had a pretty blessed life. So it's nice to be kind of socially distancing now and working through this pandemic, and thrilled to have baseball back.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because if there was anyone predestined to be a Dodger, it was you. You grew up in Florida after your parents moved from here on Long Island. Your dad drove a Greyhound bus and often drove for major league teams during spring training. That connection led you as working as a Grapefruit League bat boy with the Brooklyn Dodgers of the mid-'50s, meaning you got to see Pee Wee Reese, Gil Hodges, Carl Erskine, Jackie Robinson, Duke Snider, Roy Campanella, Sandy Koufax up close. How much did those years as a bat boy motivate you to want to play the game? And of those great Dodgers we mentioned, is there one that holds a special, place in your heart?
Well, again, our family originated in New York, Long Island. My father's family was from Glen Cove and Hempstead. Mom was from Baldwin. And my grandfather was a Brooklyn policeman. So all these things laid the foundation for a longer story. But in 1948, my parents moved to Florida, and they stayed there. And all of a sudden, in 1956, Dad's working for Greyhound. He comes home late in March in spring training. He says, "You want to skip school tomorrow?" And I said, "Dad, yeah. What are we going to do?" And he says, "Well, you had a charter to pick up the Brooklyn Dodgers from Tampa Airport and take them to St. Pete to play the Yankees in exhibition game." Of course, that was the spring after the Dodgers had finally beaten the Yankees in the fall of '55. So the next day, I got a chance to bat boy for the world champions and sit on the bench and listen to Hodges and Reese talk about the Yankee pitcher and how he's holding the ball for a curveball and a fastball, and had Jackie Robinson literally sit on my lap. He wasn't looking, and sat down. He goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry." I said, "It's okay, Mr. Robinson." I'm thinking, gosh, Monday, show and tell. Jackie Robinson sat on my lap, and nobody's going to believe me. But Dad was always a Dodger fan. Mom was a Yankee fan, and that day was my baptism into baseball. A week later, I was going to start my first Little League game. Dad and two other gentlemen had started the second Little League in Tampa, which many people know has been a hotbed for baseball talent for all these years. And, they liked my dad, and for the next 7 or 8 springs, I would bat boy, and then got to high school and, got involved with sports then, and, fell in love with the Dodgers. And I would play wiffle ball in my backyard, and we had grapefruit trees and orange trees. I would take the small fruit and put them into buckets and be the Yankees and the Dodgers in the World Series. And, of course, many years later, in 77, 78, and 81, we had those great Dodger-Yankee World Series that I was on. So, like I said before, I've been very blessed to have that happen as a young boy at the age of 7, to actually be up close and personal with a World Championship baseball team is kind of a great way to fall in love with something.
Absolutely. That's great stories. Great stories. You mentioned high school and playing sports in high school. You're a star quarterback and a third baseman at Chamberlain High School. What were some of the core things? You mentioned your dad started Little League in Tampa, but what were some of the core things you learned from coaches Ken Nuznoff and Ted Cornelius at Chamberlain?
Well, back then, that was the Bear Bryan era. Everybody had a crew cut and a flat top, and, it was, baseball, apple pie, football, God, the flag, and I'm not sure which order it should be. It should be God first, but, and all those football coaches preached the doctrine of discipline and character and faith, and you went out, and I was just kidding the other day, you talk about hydration in sports and how important it is. We used to get 2 cups of 2 ounces of water in a full football practice in Florida in August. Think about that with all the humidity and heat and everything. They said, "Oh, you don't want to drink too much water. You would get cramps." But 4 ounces in 3 hours. But I always say that football helped lay the foundation for a long baseball career. It teaches you hard work, and you get knocked down and you get up, and teamwork. And I was blessed to have some very, very good coaches in high school, and then of course got a chance to go to Michigan State and have Duffy Daugherty as my football coach and Danny Litwell Weiler as my baseball coach, and that laid the foundation for the pros.
How much of those two factored into the fact, because you drafted by the Twins out of high school, other colleges such as Florida State, Clemson, Southern Illinois, Parsons had, looked at you. What, besides those two coaches, what made Michigan State, what was the offer that made them the most appealing?
Well, it was Danny Weiler, who maybe a lot of people haven't heard his name, but he was a very good center fielder for 11 years in the majors. I think he went an airless season once, and was an exceptional baseball coach in college. So he went from Florida State to Michigan State during my sophomore year in high school. So being a two-sport player, I wanted to play both in college. Most of the schools were starting the dimension. Florida State was baseball, Florida was football, Miami baseball, Auburn football. And I really wanted to play both. And then all of a sudden I get a call from the fellow who was pitching coach at our high school, who had gone to Florida State, played for a little while. And he said, Danny's up at Michigan State. I called him and told him about you. They'd like you to come up and visit. So my mom and I got on a bus. There was a plane strike, and 24 hours later we're in East Lansing. And Danny met us after a nap in the afternoon, gave us a tour of the campus, and the big field house there in the lobby with all the glass cases of trophies. And he's telling us about this wonderful school and the Big Ten. And all of a sudden around the corner comes Stuffy Doherty, the old Irish leprechaun of a coach, a tremendous career. And he comes up and he said, Danny, is this the boy you're talking about? And he said, yeah, Duffy, this is Steve Garvey. He said, Mr. Garvey, how are you? And he said, son, are you want to play two sports? And I said, yes, sir, I really will. He said, well, I'll tell you what, we got a big school here, 40,000 students and 23,000 co-eds. I guarantee you'll get a date here on Friday night. And we started laughing, and I looked at my mom. She said, Mr. Doherty, we're here for an education first. And he said, oh, yes, Millie. Oh, yes. So I actually got tired of the heat, in Florida, so hot and so humid. And Michigan State was 4 seasons and up north, and a chance to put on a coat. And, I think it was the best choice, one of the best choices of my life. Went there, I had a chance to play two sports, and then signed with the Dodgers in the spring of 1968. But if you look at the story, and many people have come up with it, talking about doing a movie or whatever, or play about going from a bat boy and working your way through, the 60s and 50s and 60s growing up, and then the 70s, which was the beginning of a new era in baseball. So, again, pretty blessed.
It's pretty, the story is amazing. And even, your first at bat in a Spartan uniform was pretty memorable as well. Can you share that story? I mean, that's Hollywood right there as well. Could you share that story with our audience?
Oh, yeah. So you had, back then you had freshman teams. So we play our first freshman game. We play Eastern Michigan, and the pitcher was a little wild. So we walked the first three guys. And their coach goes out there, and I was on the on-deck circle, and our coach said, Steve, come on. He said, listen, he's telling them to take a little off and try to get it over. So just look for a decent pitch, and let it rip. I said, okay. So coach goes back to the dugout, pitcher standing on the mound, and I dig in, and I'm figuring if it's anywhere close, I'm letting it rip. And he throws one on the outside half of the plate, and I make good contact, hit it down the right field line into the Red Cedar River, and it's a grand slam. So we come back, and I come into the dugout, and coach goes, nice job. Go ahead and take it in. I looked at him and said, what? He says, where are you going to go from a grand slam in your first at bat? So he laughed. He says, well, yeah, go ahead and play the rest of the game and get some more hits. I said, yes. So that was a kind of a neat way to start my my baseball career at Michigan State.
Yeah, grand slam into a river, no less. As you mentioned, drafted by the Dodgers first round of the 68 draft. You make your way through the Dodgers minor league system, first in Ogden under Tom Lasorda, then Albuquerque under Del Crandall. You make your major league debut September 1st, 1969 at the age of 20 against our New York Mets. A pretty good pitchers matchup that day, Jerry Koosman versus Jim Bunning. You entered the game as a pinch hitter. What do you remember about the first of your 8,835 at-bats?
Well, I thought it was pretty neat that it was against the Mets, New York team and so forth. And I thought, well, it's got to be on TV. Hopefully some of our family be watching, which they were. And I'm sitting on the bench, and I think it was the bottom of the 8th inning, down 3-0, and the pitcher was going to be up. And Walter Olson looks at me. He said, "You ready, son?" I said, "Yes, sir." So I grabbed the bat and put a helmet on and took some cuts in the on-deck circle. And the three of us had taken early batting practice, and I had a great batting practice, hitting the ball all over the ballpark and in the bleachers, so forth. So I said, "Anybody know this guy?" I looked in. They go, "A little lefty." His name was Jack Delora. Typical lefty, they said. I said, "Okay." So I got in the batter's box, and the first ball was a little bit cutter inside. They turned on it, hit it down left field line, just missed the foul pole by about 10 feet. Shoot. And the next pitch was a typical lefty fastball, tailing away. Got a piece of that, hit it down the right field line, just missed the foul pole by about 5 feet. And I stepped back, and I go, "Geez, this isn't so bad. I could have had two runs already." And I stepped in, and the next pitch came out of his hands, and it looked like a fastball. And I started to swing, and the bottom fell out, and I swung and missed. And the bat went over Wayne Garrett, who was the third baseman for the Mets, had literally javelin in left field. And he had thrown me the first screwball I had ever seen. So I figured, well, I get good cuts out of this. I came back, and Walter Olson was on the top step, of course, the Hall of Fame manager, and he said, "Well, son," he said, "you got your cuts." He said, "He really unraveled that last one." I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Sure did." He said, "Well, the good news is," he said, "a Dodger Stadium record for a bat toss there." He said, "Nobody's ever reached the outfield keeping it there." And he said, "You'll probably get a couple thousand hits when it's all said and done." Kind of patted me on the behind. I got almost 2,600 when it was all said and done. So, and the last at bat I had in my career was a strikeout too. So, I had bookends with strikeouts, and the rest of them, I got my swing, so to speak.
So you played third base for the Dodgers in 1970. You moved over to first base in 73 after the retirement of Wes Parker. As we mentioned in the open, you make the 1974 All-Star game. You were the second ever writing candidate to make the team. And there's an interesting story that goes with that as well. The manager of that team was Yogi Berra of that National League All-Star team. Tell us how you ended up playing the entire game.
Well, for the weekend prior to the All-Star game in Pittsburgh, I had come down with the mumps. And we didn't know what it was, but I was very weak. Felt like I had a virus. My jowls underneath were very swollen. Doctor had gone in Dodger Stadium on Friday night. They sent me home. They looked at it and gave me some antibiotics. And then couldn't get out of bed that Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. Finally, the doctor, the Dodger team doctor, I saw him on Monday morning, and I had gotten 1 million write-in votes. And I said to him, "I've got to go, doctor. I've got to go, unless it's contagious." He said, "Well," he said, I don't think it's contagious." He said, "I think it's the mumps." He says, "Take this, get on a plane, do the best you can." He said, "It's a wonderful accomplishment." So got on a plane, flew to Pittsburgh. Back then, there were no home run hitting contests. There was a workout on a Monday in the afternoon. That was about it. Tuesday, which was the day of the game, they usually had a big luncheon back then, so I was able to make that. So I go from there, and I get out to the field early, and I try to get loose, and I take some infield, and it feels like I'm on a basketball trying to field things. Just don't have my balance, but I'm kind of working my way through it. Couldn't take batting practice. Had a little drizzle before the game. So we have our team meeting, and Yogi gives us rah-rah, and Chuck Feeney, the National League president, comes in, rah-rah, and Yogi says to me, after, he said, "Listen," he said, "great accomplishment. You're a starter, so you're going to play 3 innings. Give me your best for 3 innings." And he said, "Then I'll get you out of there." I said, "Okay." So first time up in the second inning, I'm facing, I think, Louis Tion, and he does all those gyrations and throws me a slider away. I swing, almost fall on my face, and kind of catch myself, and I step back, and I look up to the heavens, Lord, please let me just hit the ball somewhere. So the next pitch, he tries a slider again, hit it up the middle for a single. So I get to first base, and I go, thank you. So get a little rally, next inning, get a little rally, 30, get up, I double down left field line, drive in a run. We have a big rally, and inning's over, and Yogi says, son, great job. He said, okay, I'm going to get you out. I said, what are you going to put in? He said, well, I think I'll put in Perez. I said, well, you pinch hit him, and who else? He said, Stargell. I said, yeah, you did that too. You went for the win. Typical Yogi, right? And he says, looks at me, he goes, well, you got to play the whole game. Get out there. And I ended up being the only player for both teams to play the whole game. Won the MVP, the first big award of my career. And as I look back now, all the things that transpired to get me there, having the mumps, and then being the only guy to play, all 9 innings for each team was really a great story, and kind of the first big game of my career.
It's amazing. Yeah, you mentioned Walter Alston. You played your first half of your Dodger career under Walter Alston, and then the second half under another legendary manager in Tom Lasorda. What were the similarities and the differences between playing for those two?
Well, I actually also played for Dick Williams, so 3 Hall of Fame managers.
Right.
I might have the record. I'm not sure, but I always said they were just different men. Walt Alston was 23 one-year contracts and 6'3", and strong and very stoic and never said much, but when he said something, you knew that you better listen because he had thought it out. It was something he wanted you to do or make a correction. Tommy Lasorda, I always call him the Pete Barnum of baseball. Gregarious, a character, great storyteller, entertaining, talked a lot, had a lot of meetings, but very similar. You had to actually listen, and he would give you these nuggets of things that were going to make you a better player or a teammate or help the team win. And then Dick Williams was a great X's and O's guy, really didn't care to motivate that much. Old school guy, actually played with Lasorda way back when with the Dodgers. And he was tough on young players. A young rookie pitcher would walk 2 guys in a row, and they knew they were out of there. So 3 different styles, 3 very successful, 3 Hall of Famers. So I was blessed to learn 3 different management styles, which I've taken that with me in my business career. And because I do a lot of motivational speaking, we have a Garvey Media Group as a brand management company. And all 3, in somehow, some way, when I played for them, taught me things that helped me in business.
So, as we mentioned in the open, 1981, Lawrence Ritter and Donald Honig include you in their book, The 100 Greatest Baseball Players of All Time. In your 15 years on the National Baseball Hall of Fame ballot of the Baseball Writers Association of America, somehow, I don't even get this, you failed to reach the 75% required for induction. Your highest percentage was 42.6 in 1995. Subsequently, you've been considered by the Expansion Era Committee in 2011 and 2014, Modern Baseball Era Committee in 2018, and 20, falling short of the 75% threshold each time. December 2019, voting for the 2020 induction class, you received 6 votes from the 16-member committee. Tell me what I'm missing here. Why do you think you're not in the Hall of Fame? I mean, this is, just so you know, this is 3 weeks in a row. We had Chuck Foreman 3 weeks ago. We had Louis Tiant last week, and now you. And there's no doubt in my mind, all 3 of you belong in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Those 2 gentlemen absolutely do. It's, I don't know. It's very tough to explain. My career is a body of work, so you've got to dig a little bit. You don't really have to
Steve, honestly, you don't have to dig that deep. I mean, your playoff teams never lost. They all got to the championship. Right. Your all-star teams, you won every all-star game you were in, and that's 10 of them. Gold Gloves, you were the preeminent first baseman of your era. How are you not in the Hall of Fame? Who did you piss off is what I really want to know.
No, a conservative guy like me, maybe I should have spoke out more. But no, yeah, it's been, everybody says that. I'll do interviews, and people are very kind like you are, and do their homework and talk things. And I take a lot of pride in a long career, a very successful career. The number of games that I were in that my team won is significant. When the lights were the brightest, I was able to capture the moment and help my teams win. It was going way back to learning being a bat boy and then playing under these great managers of how to play the game. And I think maybe the consecutive game streak speaks volumes for my love and commitment for the game. There were many times over those 7.5 years and 1,207 consecutive games I could have set out, but I felt an obligation to the fans, to my team, to my cities, to go out there. And I had hairline fractures of fingers and hyperextended elbow and flu and those kind of things, but I always knew I could get out there and perform. Sometimes for only a few innings, but go out there because our obligations to the fans. And they knew that, and wherever I go, and I get a chance to go to several games a year and go to the minor leagues frequently, which I really love. And hopefully we'll be back in stadiums at some time this season. But to be able to interact with the fans, because I've always said we're in the memory business. And memories are what really drive baseball and other sports and in life, too. So I was able to be on great teams that created memories, do individual things, have moments where I had decisions to make and to support people. One of them is my dear friend who I love, Claire Smith, which she was just starting out, and women were struggling to get into the clubhouse. And this wonderful writer couldn't get into her job. And after the 15 victory of 84, they wouldn't let her in. And clubhouse man came over and said, Steve, Claire's outside. She can't get in. She wonders if you could help her. I said, absolutely. And I left probably 12 male writers and went outside. And I said to her, okay. She had little tears in her eyes. I said, time to clear your tears up. And, what do you need to know? And you go get your job done. And then people say, that was a moment you didn't have to go out there. And I said, well, I didn't have to, but it was the right thing to do.
Right.
And learning from all these people growing up, and then as my career went on, life went on, about doing the right thing and making sure that all people are treated fairly and supporting those that aren't. We're going through a lot right now, but it's simply common respect for each other. And God put us on this earth, gave us this great life and free will and choice, and what we do with it, I've always said, is our gift to Him. So, I tell our kids, and I've got 7 kids and now 7 grandkids, there's no gray area. There's a right and wrong. And hopefully, your mother and I have told you and taught you what's right from wrong. So, and sports is a great teacher, and I think that's why we got to get our kids back in school and get sports going again safely, and responsibly. But those are the things that teach us, truly what life's all about.
Steve, I'm hoping the next time you're on the show, it's to announce your induction to the Hall of Fame. We really appreciate your time tonight.
It's coming up in a year or so. Let's try it again.
Let's try for sure. Thanks so much for your time tonight. More importantly, thanks for 19 great seasons of excellence on the field. We really appreciate it.
My best to all the New Yorkers, when I would have been in New York 4 or 5 times during this pandemic, but I look forward to coming back again soon.
You got it. Thanks so much. The one and only Steve Garvey, back with the NFL Report right after this.
The Phoenix Tube Company Incorporated is among the country's leading manufacturers of structural ornamental stainless steel tubing, rectangles, squares, and processed flat bars. The company takes pride in its everyday commitment to quality and customer service. The philosophy of the company has been and continues to be to support the growth of the stainless tube market through distribution and service centers throughout the country. Ornamental and structural stainless steel tubing is used for a wide variety of aesthetic and mechanical products where superior finish and corrosion resistance are required. Some products manufactured include tubing for mirror bracket arms, boat rails and ladders, washroom grab bars, swimming pool rail products, medical equipment, automotive step bars and trimming, as well as structural framing for food processing equipment. For a quote or for more information on how the Phoenix Tube Company can meet your ornamental and structural stainless steel tubing needs, visit them on the web at phoenixtube.com or call them toll-free at 1-800-526-2124.
Time for the Just Escape NFL Report with Jay Retcher. Jay, we got about a minute, and obviously the big news is the New York Jets' huge trade of Jamal Adams, who definitely was taking no prisoners, wanted out, basically signed his own ticket out of here by throwing his coach under the bus. Did the New York Jets get enough? Are you confident enough that they'll turn these picks into some good talent?
I am actually. I think it's a great deal for the Jets, not just because they got 2 first-round picks, or I don't think it's going to be as low as a lot of people thinking. I mean, next year you'd have to think teams like the Rams are going to be better. I think Arizona's going to take another step forward. So it's not going to be so easy sailing in the NFC West. So I think those picks will actually be better than a lot of people think. And I've seen Bradley McDougald play in person. This guy is a team player. He's a guy that's not going to play close to the line of scrimmage, but a solid safety to go with the other couple of guys that the Jets have there. I think it's a really good deal for the Jets.
All right, Jay. Sorry about the shortness, but
all good, brother.
All there. Good stuff on the trade. All right, we'll see everyone next week. Have a good one, everybody.
National Guard is about more than just serving your country.